Canada permanent resident application refusals have skyrocketed this year, and the truth is, most of them are avoidable. Before you submit your application, I'd like you to stop and watch this video because the mistakes I'm about to share with you are the reasons why IRCC have been returning thousands of applications every single week. Imagine submitting an application, let's say on the non-express entry portal, and you have to wait for like 10 or 11 months before you even get an AOR, only to be told that your application was returned because you missed something, or you applied through the express entry portal and you got your application returned because of one mistake you made, and you have to go back to the pool to wait for the next draw. That can be devastating. So I want you to stick around with me in this video because at the end, I'm also going to give you guys a bonus tip on how to work around everything we're going to discuss in this video. And without further ado, let's dive right into the video for today. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Celine Chibuzo, and on this channel, I break down all you need to know about studying, living, and thriving in Canada. I also like to share my knowledge and life experiences. If this sounds like something you like, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so that you get notified whenever I post more videos. And for my old subscribers, thank you guys. Thank you so much for always showing up. And so, like I mentioned, the first reason I'm going to be talking about is missing or incomplete child information on IMM 5406. This one is so common, and I made a video on how to fill out the IMM 5406 on my channel. There is a statement on this form that confuses people. IRCC said, fill out this form for yourself and on behalf of any dependent who is 18 and above. Because of that statement, people do not write the names of their children in this application form. Please, that statement does not mean that you should not list your children. What it simply means is you, being the main applicant, will fill this form. If you have a child who is 18 and above, the child will also fill out this form for themselves, filling in their own details as well. Now that your kids are below 18 years, they do not have to fill a copy of these forms for themselves. But while you, the main applicant, or your husband is filling this form, you have to state the names of your children where it has been written. So please don't leave it blank thinking because your children are not up to 18 years. A lot of people have had the applications returned because of this singular issue. The second reason is missing original birth certificates for either the main applicant or any of the dependents in the application. This is very common for people whose birth certificate is not in English language. So some people's birth certificate is written in their home country. Let's take India, for example. They get this translated, but they do not submit the original birth certificate. They go ahead to submit the translated version. IRCC will return your application for that. They want to see where it was translated from. So it's not enough for you to just submit a translated copy of your birth certificate. They need to see the original, to see where you translated it from, to be sure that you have not made any changes. Because trust me, they also have language expert, people that work for them. So they want to verify what you have translated against the original document. So submitting your birth certificate without putting the original and just submitting only the translated copy will result in your application being refused. So you need to watch out for that. And also, please do not forget to include the birth certificate of yourself and your dependents. Is very, very important. It's very necessary. You will see there as one of the checklists. A lot of people have had the applications returned for this reason. The third reason is leaving blank spaces or column in your application form. IRCC would not like you to leave anything blank. They will return your application because of that. If you have something that does not apply to you, instead of leaving it blank, please write not applicable. So let's take, for example, you're filling out your parents' information. There's a place where you have to put the name of your parents, their address, that's where they're residing, and their email address. I know that some people's parents do not have email address. It's not enough for you to leave it blank. Please write their email address and also fill their address correctly. I've seen someone's application who was returned because the person did not put the address properly. They ask you where your parents are residing. It's not enough for you to say this country or that country. At least you have to say the state, the province, or whatever it is. You don't just write Canada. Where in Canada does your mother live? Does your mother live in Ontario? Even if she lives in Ontario, where in Ontario, what's the street and things like that? You don't just write Ontario, the name of the country. You have to be specific. You have to break it down. So this is one other reason you guys should look out for. The fourth reason is claiming a work experience that you did not declare previously. A lot of people have fallen for this particular one. So you're coming to study in Canada and you filled out your study permit application. You did not include a work experience that you claim to have. And then at the point of PR application, you suddenly bring it out. IRCC will refuse your application because of that. It has happened to a lot of people. Some people keep getting work experiences because they think it aligns with the occupations that are in high demand. So let's take, for instance, somebody wants to apply for PRO using the healthcare stream, for instance, and you came here to study something totally different. You said you have work experience as a healthcare provider in your home country. Let's say 5, 6 years ago, you never mentioned it anywhere in your study permit application. When you were applying for your post graduation work permit, you also did not mention it. And then at the point of applying for permanent residence, because you know you're going to get points for that, you suddenly put it in your application. IRCC will refuse your application for that. So if you know all the work experiences you have, please put it from the very beginning. If you know you did not declare it before, there is no point bringing it now, except you have a very good explanation and can prove it beyond all reasonable doubt. Otherwise, you stand the risk of getting refused. The fifth one is claiming points for previous education that you also did not declare. I see a lot of people in this same boat. So you want to study in Canada and let's say you already have a master's degree from your country. You want to do something that is lower than master's degree. Some people think that being smart is not declaring their master's so that IRCC will not question why they are coming to do something that is lower when they already have a higher degree. But that's not smartness, and you're going to find out sooner or later when you want to apply for your permanent residence. So if you know you have master's degree or you have any other education, it's better to write it from the beginning. Instead, go ahead and explain to IRCC, telling them the reason why the course you're coming to study is relevant to whatever you're doing in your life right now, regardless of your previous degree. It's better for you because you're going to get points for previous education, especially those who are applying through the express entry. You get higher points if you have masters, if you have PhD and all that. So with how competitive this PR thing is right now, everyone is trying to max out their points, and that's when they're remembering, oh, I have masters before, I did not state it when I was coming to study, and then all of a sudden you're coming to declare it now. They're going to call that misrepresentation, and you're not going to get the PRO because you will be refused for lying to IRCC in the first place. So I've seen a situation where IRCC requested the resume of an applicant from the person's employer. So we need to be very careful with that. That's why it's good to be clear and consistent with everything you're doing from the very beginning. They contacted the person's employer to provide the resume the person used to apply for the job. I do not know the reason why they did that. Now the employer sent a copy of the resume to IRCC, and then they also contacted this individual to send a copy of his or her resume as well, and the person sent, and they were totally different things. So for those people who claim work experiences or provide work experiences that they may or may not have to their employer to secure a job, and along the line, you know that is a job that is going to give you PR, when you apply for PR, IRCC will check all these things. So you have to declare all your work experiences and all your education experience from the beginning to avoid complications at the later stage. The sixth thing is not declaring your children, whether they are adopted children or whether they are your children you had even before marriage. It's very correct for you to declare them from the onset. If you not declare them in your application, whether they are accompanying you to Canada or not, you will not be able to sponsor them in future. So many people have had this problem, including not declaring your spouse. That's very common for people who want to get higher points in the express entry because they know that when you add your spouse, it will reduce their score. So they try to game the system. Some people do not include their spouses at all, or they would write non-accompanying, things like that. IRCC will ask you why you're not declaring your spouse or your children or why they are not accompanying, and you better have a good reason. And they still have the discretion to review what you're saying and check if it makes sense to them or not. And if it doesn't, they're going to reject them or reject your application. So this is another thing you want to be very careful about. The seventh reason is having gaps in your personal history, your work history, or your address history. When submitting your PRO application, you're going to be asked to submit your address history. That's where you've lived for the past 10 years. Same thing for your work and your previous education, like I mentioned earlier. So you have to state everything. If you leave any gap in time, they're going to return your application. Let's say for the past 10 years, you were working and sometime in 2024 you were not working. You don't have to leave that place blank. You still have to include it and write unemployed instead of just leaving it blank. Don't think they are going to know that you left it blank because you were not working. You have to fill out all the months for the past 10 years and state what you were doing. Same thing with wherever you lived. You have to state everything one after the other. You should not leave any gaps in time. If you're lucky, they will ask you for additional documents telling you to refill the form. If you're not lucky, they might return your application in total, and all those things will delay your application. So it's better for you to get it right from the onset. The eighth point is not having an updated passport. I see people submitting applications with passport that have 2-3 months validity. They think because it was valid as at the day they submitted the application that it will go through, but IRCC will contact you to submit an updated passport, and those things can delay you. It can delay your application and it can put you on the edge if you're not able to provide it within the time frame. So it's better to make sure that before you submit your application, you have a passport that is valid for at least 1 year. That's what IRCC requires, and that's the best practice before submitting your PR application to avoid back and forth and delay in processing your application. The last but not the least is your police clearance certificate. Some people do not send police clearance certificate to IRCC, and you'll be asked to provide it, and this can also delay your application. For context, IRCC wants us to bring police clearance certificates for any country you've stayed in for 6 months and above within the last 10 years, including your home country. Some people forget that they've lived somewhere before for 6 months and above, and they just bring only from their country. With your travel history and all that, IRCC will see and know that you once lived in this country or that country for 6 months and above, and you need to provide your police clearance certificate. So it's better for you to have that in mind and get everything ready on time to avoid delays in your application. And then, like I promised you guys, I said if you watch to the end of this video, I'm going to give you guys a tip that will help you a lot in your PR application. Now, what I want to tell you is, if you know that your application was submitted for you by an agent, especially your study permit when you were coming to Canada, please, while you're studying, I'll advise you to know what the person submitted for you. Some agents might not want to show you, or they might not want to tell you, or you do not have access to the portal. My advice would be to request for your GCMS notes. Don't say my application is approved, I'm already in Canada. The reason why you need that GCMS note is for you to see what the person filled for you at the time. Some people have no idea about what they filled when they came to study. So there's a discrepancy when they are applying for PR, and that's where they begin to have problem, and they say they have misrepresentation issue because they don't remember what they had. And then if you submitted it by yourself, when you want to submit your PR application, open what you feel during your study permit, open what you feel during your PGWP, and make sure that everything is consistent. And then another tip is, if you know you're applying for PR via the PR portal, that's for those that are submitting for Atlantic Immigration Program or the non-express entry PMP or any other pathway that is not the express entry. When you submit your application, after about 24 to 48 hours, when it has finished transmitting, I advise you to download your application. It will usually download on your system as a zip file or zip folder. When you open it, you will see everything you have submitted. That is your chance to review everything one after the other. A lot of people have saved themselves trouble by doing this, because that's when you will notice that, oh, I didn't attach this document, or I did not fill this one properly, and things like that. In that case, you can resend everything via the web form before they start processing your application. It's better to get it corrected at that time than later. Even if you use an agent, please ask the person to download the application for you so that you guys can review it together one last time. This will save you so much stress, because once they return your application, you have to go back in line. You have to go back to the queue. If it took you 5, 6, 10 months to get a response from IRCC, that is how you will go back in line and wait again. And for those that submitted via the express entry, same thing. Try to see what you've submitted and review everything, because if you do not check it and they return your application, you have to wait for the next time they're going to do a draw. And with the way these draws are scarce these days, you never know when next they're going to call your number, or whenever they're going to invite people that have the score you had at the time. And remember that the older you get, the more you lose points based on age. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and don't forget to like this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.